Josh Ward joins us, co-host of Josh and Sway and Sports Animal in Knoxville. Josh, you there?
I am here. I see you guys, by the way, so we had to hop on the phone, but I see you guys. You look great. The power team hat. That is rocking it right. And, Ron, you started the VOLS chant. That's what you were going to do, right?
That's absolutely it.
Yeah, finish it out, even if you have a headphone issue. Let the people hear it every time.
VOLS. 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 Go, Vols, go.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah. I brought my trumpet and everything, Josh.
That's what the people needed. You knew it. Now they've got it.
Now we're ready, baby.
Josh, we were just talking about Tennessee run game. Number 1 in the SEC, Alabama run defense, number 14 in the SEC. However, Tennessee averaged just under 7 yards per carry in its first 3 games. In its last 3, they averaged 3.6. Will Tennessee be able to run the football against Alabama?
I think they can run with success. And with success, I mean keep at it. Like Oklahoma, it wasn't about the yards per carry average. It was about grinding it out. And that drive at the end of the first half, that did end in success. That was a lot of carries by Dylan Sampson. They got a touchdown, and then it was about the clock in the second half. Now, the success I'm describing, that also kind of requires a lead probably. If the goal here is, hey, we got to catch up, hey, we need to get a touchdown or 2 on the board, and we have to do it in a short amount of time, I'm skeptical that the run game is going to get them there. But can Tennessee run better than they have in the past a lot of the time when we've had this conversation against Alabama's defense? Yes, I think that can be there. Can they hit a home run play? Can Dylan hit 1 or 2? Or maybe Deshaun Bishop, if he springs free, he can hit it in the open field. But I think it's going to be a grinded-out type running attack if Tennessee's going to have success.
Bama has given up explosive plays in the pass game all season long. Can Nico take advantage? Nico on passes 10 or more yards down the field in the last 2 games, 10 of 28 on the season, 20 or more yard throws, 8 for 24. Can he take advantage? Missed several opportunities against Florida.
Can he? I think the answer has to be yes, he can, because he could have hit a couple of those balls last week, just didn't. And if he had, the narrative, the feeling among Tennessee fans is different this week, but he also didn't. So if you're skeptical that it's going to happen this week, even with the defensive issues Alabama has, I get it. But yeah, I think I've said at least a couple of Fridays. Well, I think this is the Chris Brazzell week, and it just hasn't happened yet. But Squirrel White caught a big pass last year against Alabama. He was on the receiving end of what could have been a big play last week against Florida. So, yeah, I think we can point to the guys. I think that's probably where I would start the conversation, Brazzell or White. We'll see about Thornton's availability. Didn't play much last week. I think plays more. We'll see how much again this week. And Mike Matthews, we're waiting on him too. So
here we go.
Can he? I just can't. I can't give you a high confidence score that they hit a bunch of big plays until I see it this weekend.
You know what, Josh, man, looking at this and looking how the season has played out for both of these teams, if we were to reverse just the scores that Tennessee has had and Alabama has had and what their opponents have been able to do with them, I don't even think this would be a question, would Alabama just devour Tennessee? If Alabama gave up, starting with NC State, 10 points, 0 to Kent State, 15 to Oklahoma, you gave up 19 and lost against Arkansas, and then overtime 17 to Florida. If you were looking at that and that was Alabama's defense giving it up, I don't think this game would be in question. Everybody would hands down be picking Alabama. Why is that such a difference when you see Tennessee and you know they got guys that have impact players over there on that side of the ball, and it's still kind of leaning towards that way?
Yeah, I do think you're right in terms of how it would feel and what people would be saying about it. Because if that were the case, we'd be saying, well, we've seen this. This is what Alabama does. They just shut people down, and they're going to do it again here. I think an answer to your question is waiting to see what Nico can do. Can he break out in the passing game? Can they hit those big plays that we're talking about? I also think just from a feeling standpoint, if we're talking about from the Tennessee side, even a couple of years ago where Tennessee hadn't done it yet. They hadn't broken the streak yet until they did it against Alabama. Going in, the offense at that point had shown, okay, they've got something. Remember how you were down there calling out Mike the Tiger in Baton Rouge? Jalen Hyde had just scored 2 touchdowns. The offense at that point looked like it had taken off. And I think there's a feeling. There's this confidence level that comes when you have an explosive offense that can score points. And we didn't know going in Tennessee needed 52, but we knew that Tennessee would have a chance to score a bunch of points. I don't think the confidence is there in the offense. I think it's easier to get optimistic about your offense and how it's going to perform versus your defense having to hold off a team. And there's the Milroe-Nico battle as well. They don't play against each other, but when you look at one quarterback versus the other, Milroe inspires confidence on the Alabama side. On the Tennessee side, it's about seeing if Nico can have that game finally.
Now, let me ask you about this secondary. Well, since we're talking about defense and what it means, when you look at guys like Ricky making plays last week, also McCoy, what do you think they bring to the game as far as being able to match up with a guy like Ryan Williams?
See, there's a reason to be optimistic, confident. We'll see. I'm not saying they're going to shut down Ryan Williams. Right. I don't know that I would make that kind of prediction, but we were asked a couple times this week on the show, do you shadow with Jermod McCoy? And I think the staff has confidence in Ricky Gibson. He made some plays last week. They were both key in the victory against Florida. The performance of McCoy and Gibson, really, they don't win. Tennessee doesn't without the way that they played. So let's see. You have Ryan Williams, who is a big play threat that every defense coordinator this season will be telling the defense, we have to do everything we can to try to slow this guy down. They get a couple of receivers back at Alabama, some guys that have played a lot in Kendrick Law and Kobe Prentice. That has to help their offensive game plan and what they're going to try to do, because those are some trustworthy guys that Tennessee will have to be aware of with Ryan Williams still lined up. He didn't have a big game last week, but he's had a big season, and he is a touchdown threat. If he can do what he did against Georgia, he can do it against Tennessee's defensive backs. At least that'll be his mindset. But if it's Tennessee's defensive backfield last year, which I thought got too much criticism at times, I wouldn't have a lot of confidence in them slowing down Ryan Williams. McCoy has inspired some confidence in what they're able to do on the back end. We talk so much about the guys up front. Finally, McCoy, I think, is starting to get some real recognition of what he's done at the cornerback spot. And Gibson was slowed by a hamstring injury at the start of the season. As he's gotten healthier and come on, he's shown that he can be a playmaker. They are legit athletes, and that's what you have to have in this kind of matchup against Bama's receivers, especially Williams. You need athletes, and McCoy and Gibson are those kinds of guys.
All right, Josh. Now, you're looking at the offensive line. Are we dragging the offensive line along the way with Hurd and Campbell right now? Are we just waiting on them to get going, or can we do it with them having subpar seasons?
Well, I wouldn't recommend continued subpar performance in a matchup like this. Again, Alabama, they don't have a Will Anderson or Dallas Turner, but they still got some guys. I watched last week in the South Carolina game, Jahad Campbell gets around the edge, and he gets to Lenore Sellers, twists him around, ball pops out, Alabama jumps on it. We've seen Nico cough it up. We've seen the issues Tennessee's had on the edge in pass protection in the backfield at times as well. And they need to get that fixed. In the run game, I think they're okay, at least with what they've had. That comes back to the start of this conversation. But it's protection and then also the penalties. Guys, if they just took those penalties away that Hurd and Campbell were committing last week, the offense would have looked different. So it's about being smarter. It's about protecting. It's about limiting the mistakes that cost themselves, because it's not hard to figure out what slows Tennessee's offense down. When we talk about the Vols wanting to get in tempo, they need a positive play on first down, and they need to not go backwards after that. And too often they've had penalties that send them back, and they just don't have a good enough chance, especially as they've struggled to get the explosive plays. They need to keep moving forward. If they do that, then I think they can run and they can have some success. So to answer your question, Ron, can they continue with the issues they've had at tackle and succeed this weekend? I don't think so. So Dane Davis factors in. Let's see how much he plays this weekend. But if Hurd's out there at left tackle and John Campbell is there at right tackle, they have to play better. And I think everybody, those two guys included, recognize that.
Josh, what's your pick?
Brent, you're breaking up. I'm sorry.
Hey, man. Hey.
No, we need it. Don't let him off. Do not let him off.
10 toes down, Josh, no matter what.
Well, actually, so here's the thing. The last couple of weeks, I started to get really optimistic with my picks, right? I had Tennessee by a couple of scores last week. And by the way, that was on the table. They could have won by a couple of scores, but they didn't because of these issues that we've talked about. But I do have Alabama by a score. 31-24 was the score I gave out when I was forced to give one. So
see you, Josh.
Just click him. Josh?
Oh, Josh, are you there? Is anybody there?
When we come back, Amari Cooper is now a Buffalo Bill. How much of an impact can he have with 3 days practice? We'll ask a former wide receiver,
That's the
Mark
type of day we gonna have around here. You heard it.
On 104.5 The Zone. Josh is still on the
Josh, we love you.